Hello, everyone. Welcome to our mini session episode 16. If you're new here, welcome to Uncaught Exception, and we do these sessions weekly. These sessions usually have two speakers, and it usually lasts for an hour. For this session, we're gonna talk about MutationObserver API and Netlify's background functions. Our first speaker is Dorell, and is going to discuss Netlify's background function. So you can start sharing your screen now, Dorell.
All right. All right. Am I good? Uh, so, guys, can you see my screen and my slides? Am I audible? All right. Okay, good. Okay. So my topic is about Netlify background function. So before that, I want to take a look. How do you supercharge and oil your website? So last week, I did a talk with the other thing about supercharging your websites. Now we're kind of oiling it as well. So I'll be talking about serverless functions, but with background functions. So the focus here is more about background functions. And let's do, before we really dive in, let's do a quick recap. So the problem was, at least in static sites, is that at some point you will have to define a custom logic on your website. So examples of this is like you want to process payments and send confirmation emails for the order that was created, or you kind of like and sort of subscribe users probably in your newsletter, or maybe do some automation with Zapier. All right. And some other examples would be like resizing an image, querying a database, function calls that require this uh, server. This is kind of like, when we're dealing with um, probably hiding some sensitive API tokens that we don't want to share in the public, and they would have. That's a very crucial and security thing. Yeah. So what is serverless functions? They are basically just scripts that you write and deploy. What does that mean? Um, they are just functions code. You write them. They are hidden from the public, meaning you don't expose them. They just contain the logic of what you want it to do. And how do you interact with that is using common thing which we normally do with using APIs. So standard API methods like get, post, put, fetch, delete, you can do that whatever you need. And the great thing about it is that there are no servers to maintain. So kind of like question here is that serverless. So your code only runs when it's accessed. Functions, yeah, that's it. I'm gonna go back. It's kind of like serverless is no servers to maintain. Uh, Functions, kind of like your code only runs when accessed. All right. So why do we have to use it? Client-side JavaScript is limited. It's limited in a way that there are certain use cases that you can't interact with, such as protected APIs or accessing databases or processing payments. They require you to kind of like communicate server by server. So if you're dealing with using things like a browser, which where your site which lives in a browser, you can't do that. So that is why you need serverless functions. Um, but the question that I would really, really highlight here tonight is how do we deal with long running processes? Example of that is, for example, we have to process large workloads, handling thousands of images, handling thousands of documents or millions of documents. How do we process all those data? Um, does your browser is capable of doing that? Or maybe it's too long to process that in your browser. Yeah. So here we have background functions to the rescue. And for this example, I'm gonna go with Netlify functions. All right. So by default, before we kind of like do a quick demo, we kind of like uh, look at this one. By default, all our servers functions are deployed in AWS Lambda. They have a 1 gig memory. They have an execution limit of 10 seconds for the synchronous one. But with Netlify background functions, you have this 15-minute execution limit. So that's quite a long time. And I hope like whatever you're doing, it's able to do that. All right. Let's do a quick comparison again. In a serverless function, normal one, the status code, you can kind of customize that. It's up to you. Like return 200 for success errors, 201, whatever that is, or 500 or 300 to 500, signifying some um, errors or invalid usage. So you can do that. If different functions, you only have a response that says total2, and this total2 immediately returns back to you. All right. The execution time uh, for the normal one is up to 10 seconds, while on the background functions that's 15 minutes. 15 minutes is quite a long time if you're with me. Execution type. Oh, this is synchronous, meaning as when you send um, else you send the data to a destination. It doesn't matter what you do. Uh, Probably a server that will receive a API request and do some processing there, or maybe just log into the database. It's up to you, or maybe send an email. It's up to you. As long as it's able to do its job, that's a function of the graph are endless, and I hope you'll be able to explore it more. So let's get started. The setup here, the normal setup is that you have a hello.js function. Uh, in a background example, you just kind of like append it with dash background. So as you can see here in my slide, you have here hello.js, and then the background example has this, hello background.js. Hello, Dosh. I mean, Dosh. All right. So let's take a look at the docs. Let's go there. Oops, it's not working. How do I copy this? All right. This is that, guys. All right. All right. Maybe my markdown is incorrect. Anyhows. So let's quick sample. All right. So background functions. This feature is in beta, and yeah, this is kind of like the one I explained earlier. Right? Let's look at this. So wait. Yeah, there's nothing much to explore here. Anyhow, so why about we do a quick demo? How about we do that? He said, all right. Oops, sorry, this is not the. So earlier, I kind of I need to push something. All right, everything is up to date. All right. This is kind of repo background functions. All right, let's do some coding here. Okay. Okay. Before we take a look at some codes here, I'm gonna show you how to set this up. Okay. Okay. By the way, quick disclaimer. You will need a pro account, a paid account for this to work on Netlify. I guess this is kind of like behind the paywall, but since you have some kind of like an enterprise account, then we're able to play with this one. The good thing is you are able to play with this using locally, using Netlify dev. And it's really cool that you can do that. But you can't deploy your site. The only problem there is that you can't deploy your site. Let's take a look at an example where it says you can't deploy your site. All right, here one, this one. All right, see this. This is a failed deploy. Right. What happened here is that they have this warning. The service functions failed to deploy. Hello, background. Because you need a plan like Go Business or it's not I don't see as really as a disadvantage because first this takes a lot of time and resources. Then I think it's good also that we kind of like shed some a little bit to but normally you wouldn't really need this. So but this is for kind of like those who are interested in doing this. So kind of like jumping to another kind of like services or whatever they will probably need. All right. So let's do this. All right. So going back, I have here a site. This one, Netlify backgrounds function demo. So this site contains Netlify functions. They are currently in beta. I have it deployed here, but to set this up, just like last week, we kind of like need to go here and deploys. We go to deploy settings. We go here to the functions, and we go down and we set the functions directory to functions. Alternatively, you can use netlify.uml, create that in your base directory, and specify that in the builds. So kind of like something like this, although this dev simplifies that it only runs in the local development. So we kind of like specify functions and you specify the directory. So for example, here I have 4 functions, 3 background functions and 1 hello function, normal one. All right. So once that's done, once you deploy like this, for example, this one, you go at the logs, you will see that if you set the functions directory correctly and you have some JS files right there, or you can choose to use Go functions, Go files, so you will see this new functions to upload. And you can actually use this link to explore your functions. And now, for example, here I have some 4 functions here. Well, hello JS, hello background JS. Kind of also created a fail one, so we were able to kind of like look with that. Also, there's one probably a real example that's working. That's probably that's making more sense than the other 3. Yeah. So yes, let's do this. All right. Gonna close this. All right. So let's run Netlify dev. So locally, we'll have to run Netlify dev, right? E. Netlify CLI and run dev. Right. So, but if you want, you can actually Netlify install Netlify CLI. All right. And yeah, so this is how kind of like you want to do it. Right. So after installing that, you will have this Netlify dev. So what I'm doing here is that I'm just using the NPX one so that it's able to access the latest one. Yep. All right. So let's take a look at the functions that I created. All right. First thing first is yeah. You see here, Netlify functions expects a handler function that you kind of return. So this is kind of like in the Node.js way, exports handler, and you can choose to um, make it asynchronous or just make it synchronous like this. The only difference is if you for async, for the response, you kind of like structure it like this way. You specify the status code and specify the body. All right, that's done. But if this is not async, you have to call callback, yeah, and say null, event context, and callback here in the and pass the same arguments like this, right? And that's it. That's for async. That's for synchronous, not async. So yeah, let's go back. So I'll be explaining these functions, how this works before we kind of like deal with the code. So I have here a local network request. So the hello world can be accessed locally at localhost 8088-Netlify functions hello. So here you can see here running static server background functions. Serverless function ending in slash background was detected. Your team's current one doesn't support buffer functions. So to be able to deploy this function successfully, either change the function, remove the background, or upgrade your team plan to support the background functions. So that's pro business and enterprise there. So server is now ready for running and localhost 888, and your Netlify functions can be accessed by uh, suffixing pending this Netlify functions and whatever the file name follow without the .js file. So for example, I have here a hello.js containing this code. Basically, the logic here is that um, it just returns a static code of 200 and the message for default. But you can also customize the data here if you pass in a post request containing a event, a body. So let's take a look at that. For example, this is the default one. So I'll send a request, and pretty much you'll see here that the status code is 200, and the message is service functions with the data, which is an empty object. So yeah, so that's it. This is how it functions. All right, let's take a look at Netlify functions with data. So I'm sending here a post request, setting the headers for content type to application JSON, and passing here a message. Hey, this is cool, and we can click this. We'll send a post request, and pretty much we have this return function. Service functions are cool. That's the data that we sent, which is, hey, this is cool. All right. So pretty much that's it. And we have some logs here, beautiful logs here, and pretty works. All right. Next one is Netlify background functions. So let's take a look at that code. Netlify background function. This one. All right. It's pretty long. Okay. Let's try to digest this. So we have here a utility function sleeve, which basically just simulates a yeah, kind of like a long running process. So kind of here I set the time out to 30 seconds. So what this does is that it logs that here it's beginning to process the data, and it informs you that it will take a while, probably 30 seconds to approximately, to complete. And this is kind of like faking it for 30 seconds. And after that, we simulate success here, done running after 30 seconds for just like that, and sending data destination to here. So the data that we have here is this one. So I'm kind of like, I'm utilizing the hello Netlify function, which kind of is able to receive some data here. And the destination I set here, I'm kind of jumping here, localhost 888, and set to, calling the hello function. So we will see a message here plus date. Right. So let's try to run this up. Let's do local.http and this one. Let's not from there. Okay, let's do this. Get. So as you can see, the status code is 200 and it's 202. It's accepted. And here, as you can see, um, request for get notify background is there. It's logged. It's queuing in the background. Hello, Fusion. It returned a response of 202, and we have here our log. So it says here, beginning to process data. This may take a while, like approximately 30 seconds, and After that, after 30 seconds of talking, I have here, I'm done here, as done processing after 30 seconds, and sending data to destination, which is um, the hello, the local serverless function. And it says you're done executing the background function, and my hello function receive a data, which is this, and it logs it. So pretty much it. I'm just kind of like reusing the functions here to simulate um, this background function. Yeah, yeah. After this, let's take a look at doing this live using Netlify's deployment. So deploy. So, but before that, let's take a look at what happens if the background fails. So here we have kind of like um, a hello background fail. Netlify function, same thing. Although I kind of like made this intentionally. This will cause an error because this function isn't set. So yeah, still doing the same thing, some loggings there, but it will eventually fail. So let's try to do that. Let's log. Here are the logs. Let's do this. Oops, where is it? Here, local. I don't know why it closes up. So this is the background fail. I'll send you a little request here. And oops, did I click this? Ooh, doesn't work. Why? Wait. Wait. Here. Yeah. So it's here. 500 internal error, task time out after 10 seconds. But here, oh, kind of like, kind of like hit the button multiple times. So that's why you have this. Yeah, but hmm, that's kind of weird. Oh, jeez. Okay. Okay. I kind of like, okay. This shouldn't be like this. It should be like, fail background. So the name that I created is incorrect. However, uh, yeah. Let's try to rename this. Right, and I'll restart the server. Alright. Yeah. I sorry. I kind of like miss did that. All right. Anyhow, okay. Let's do this again. Run the LPX dev. But as we wait for this, let's go to the live sites where I deploy this. So currently running a functions level 2, which is what does that mean is you have unlimited requests and runtime. That's it. Let's take a look at the functions. If we go here, functions, you will be having this list, hello JS, hello background, and hello background fail, which is incorrect. But you can able to see this logs for this one, for example, logs for that one and that one. All right. So here is the interface for kind of like watching or observing the logs. So you have this for the background function and this one for the normal function. Anyhow, so as you can see, it's empty. And let's try to invoke some requests for that. Same with what we did in the local, so that we can see some logs here. So what I did is I created also a live one. Right. Let's run the background function, which will eventually send a post request to the Netlify function. So let's do this. Okay, I'll send this request. Hello, background. All right. It says to auto accepted here. Let's take a look at the logs and see if it gets logged here. I hope it does. Netlify, please don't fail me. All right, it's here. So as you can see, it's pretty much the same in our local. Says here init, beginning process. This may take a while for 30 seconds. Yeah, yeah, that's it. And here, just gonna wait because after 30 seconds, this will send a post request to this serverless function. And yeah, so kind of like, this endpoint, we're gonna be using it, which is kind of like the same here. Yeah, this is kind of like, the same pattern, Netlify functions, then the function name here. All right. Okay. Let's not confuse ourselves. All right. So it's done. So success done processing in approximately 30 seconds, sending data to this URL, and let's try to see if it gets logged here. And it doesn't seem to do that. Oh, I don't know. All right, I don't know, but let's just wait. Anyhow, all right, I'm gonna let's resume what we kind of like failed to do, which is kind of like, this one. The file name was incorrect, so it was treated not a background function. So we need to be really careful that we kind of like um, make sure that the extension of our file name is dash background for it to be recognized as a background function. So let's do this again. All right, in my local hello fail, which matches this one. That's good. Let's set the request. All right, it's too low to accept it. However, here it says beginning to process data. All right, which is good. Yeah, it's beginning. It times out for 30 seconds, which is here. Um, yep, and it's still gonna log, still processing, for a while. Let's wait for 30 seconds. Uh, all right, there you go. So you see, here still processing, but also to fail eventually, and this is the error. All right. So reference error for the function because it's not found. This function's yeah, it's not there, and it says error. And in production, this will be retried after 2 minutes. However, since we're on local environment, no retries there. Good luck, buddy. Sorry, buddy. So you have kind of fixed this. Yeah, yeah. Until it gets, if it still fails in the production, then goodbye. But here in local, you can kind of like make sure that your background function works as expected. But in real world or real life, you can't really expect 100% turn rate for everything that you do. That's why there's some things we call bugs. So that's it. So yeah, this is kind of like how it goes with when it fails. Okay, so that's it. And for my last example, which is this one, send PDF. So kind of like here is set up here a function that sends an email for a PDF report to a certain destination. So basically, to interface this, we're gonna just send a post request. So this is the practical example that I have here, which is kind of like, no, it doesn't take too much long, but if content is really huge, then this will probably take a while. So the 10-second timeout will probably be hit. So I don't know, but because this content that we're sending, which is will be inserted into the PDF, will it's just kind of like how many KB is it? Just a small amount of data, and then the process will be really fast. Out will be fast. Not to be able to hit the 10 limit. All right. So let's do this. We're sending the request now, right? And says 202 accepted. And here you're kind of same thing, queuing background, response to O2, sending report to me at dorell.com, and says it logs here that the report is sent to kind of like him. And let's see if it really works. So let's go to mail trap. Yeah, right. So this is mail trap. Kind of like you kind of like trap every email there instead of sending real life emails to your account. Just kind of like go to this place, and it's pretty much it. So as you can see, it lies here that we have a new report that matches from the subject line. Here, new report from Uncaught exception, and you click that, see the attached email, the message in the PDF, and click this messages. Hey, here, it's attachments here. It's representing you. It's getting you the video. All right. click this and click that and click this, and we're doing live this at UA. Okay, and pretty much that's the content what we have here. And can actually customize this however we want. Like this is another message. Send, and let's do that. Same thing. It goes in the background. It's gonna be sent to email. It's gonna report is sent and say go back here. You see that. See the attachment. Download the attachment, and pretty much this is another message. This is another messages. Why did I type messages? Wrong grammar. All right. Anyhow, so I guess that's it. Pretty much, in a nutshell, the experience that you get in the local will be pretty much the same with here in the background functions. Yeah, it didn't log. So weird. Here it didn't log. Perhaps perhaps the code I didn't deploy the code, but anyhow, I think I'm done. There's nothing else I could share, and let's go back.
So that's it for Dorell for tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's the Netlify functions for you guys. If you have any questions, you can ask it now.
Hello, I have a question.
Sure.
Actually, just a clarification one. So the reason why you renamed hello background fail to hello fail background is it's required that the file name ends with dash background, right? For it to
Yes.
be a background. Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
Another question. Um, so is there like somehow a way for like the client, for example, like the app or something that sent the request to know like the status of the background function execution, or I don't think there is.
Yeah. The way you should deal with that is kind of like for example, if you're doing it in JavaScript, you have like a huge try catch there and whatever in this that. And in the catch function, you kind of like whatever error you send it probably to a webhook or send an email, whatever that is. So that's how you handle the fail request. Um, Other than that, I don't think you can like these synchronous one. So you cannot really wait for the response. You need to handle the response there in the background functions and deal with that. So if it's success, do this, and if it's not, whatever, just do it. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So in the Netlify UI, like on their site, do they list like all the functions and then if there are errors on some of them,
Yeah.
so that maybe you can see that your function has an error, you can fix it right away or something.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, there are also kind of like maybe some cases where I tried that my functions are running properly or in local, but then when I deployed it, oh, it doesn't run properly. That's because like there are some errors like I forgot to set the right environment variable for that. So kind of like you can make sure that your functions are running correctly in the Netlify interface. In each individual functions, you can click on that and see the logs there. So the way you do logs is just kind of like console log from here. There's no kind of like auto magic there that unless like you use some library functions that will help you with it. But as far as that goes, that's how you do it.
Thanks. That's all for me.
Okay. I'm glad to
All right. So I think that's it. Any
Ah,
questions from our viewers watching the stream?
huh?
No? So I think that's it. So
Alright.
let's now proceed to our next speaker, Arnelle, who's gonna talk about MutationObserver API. So you can now start sharing your screen, Kuya Arnelle.
Alright.
Excuse me, Kuya Arnelle. I think nakamute ka from the start.
Lol. Okay, let's do it again. Okay, fail. Okay, let's do it again. Hello everyone. For this session, I'll be talking about Mutation Observer API. So in the last episode, I talked about intersection observer, which essentially allows our code to know when a certain element is about to appear on the page and how much of it intersects with like our viewport. For this episode, we'll be talking about mutation observer, which allows our code to know when there are changes in our DOM. So when like our page or in our elements, they changes here could be like a new elements were added or removed or like attributes change. So we can all listen for that. We can all like detect those using mutation observer API. So maybe like where would this be useful? So in these days when you're using like frameworks like React or Vue or other frameworks that uses like virtual DOM, I don't maybe this is not very like applicable to those because all these changes are already managed in the virtual DOM probably. But if you're working on an app where in the virtual DOM, maybe you're using like old like technologies, or maybe you still have like jQuery and like managing the DOM or like all the elements by yourself. This would be helpful if you need it. So let's take a look at an example. Like for example, here's this is like a fake YouTube site. Let's put the controls. Control. So here we have a page that has a video and the title and like the uploader, for example. And that works on play the video. And let's say you were asked to add a feature to this, like add a like button. And for in order to do the like button, you have to check, for example, make an API request to know if the person has liked this video or not already. So let's say you have to do that in your JavaScript code. So that's easy, right? You can just look at where you need to add a button, for example, in the header. We just need to add the like button inside the header for this case. So let's do that. So here I already added the add like button function. So it's looking for a header and it will append the like button. So simple. And let's just call this. So easy. Let's try to refresh our page. As you can see, it doesn't work. Why? Because you found out that this header is added to the page after some time. Also, it's not already available here, but instead, the header is not here, but instead, it's dynamically added to the page after a certain time. So here, just fake a random timeout. And so the header or like the video info is added like dynamically. And that would be, there could be like reasons for that. Maybe this information is lazy loaded from the API, or it's still doing some logic before it's displayed here. So the point here is the header is not yet available by the time we want to add our like button. So now we have a problem. So normally we can do this if we can just edit the code, and then after we add video, we can just add the like button here. That would work if you have access to the code, but there are also cases where you can't really touch like this code. Maybe like a more practical example would be when you're using like date pickers or like third-party widgets that manipulate the DOM for you, and if they don't emit events, then you have no way to know when something's happened. For example, if you're using a date picker, like let's say a jQuery widget for date pickers, and then you want to know if like they added an event, let's say they selected a date, but the date picker library doesn't emit events. So how would you know that? You can't just modify their code unless you fork everything and stuff. So For that, so I just named it private code. So we're not supposed to touch this. This could be like third party or just don't touch this. So how do we do that? How do we like add our like button when the header is available already? So for that, we can use on mutation observer. So mutation observer, they allow us to know when. So one use for like mutation observer is to know when elements are added to the page. So let's try creating our mutation observer. So first, we create our observer instance. So it's called the mutation observer. So first argument accepts a callback function. So every time there is a mutation, it will call this callback function. So let's define it. Let's just console.log everything for now. Okay, that's it. And finally, after you defined your callback function and you've created your mutation observer object, you can now start observing elements. So let's just say observe. Let's say let's observe. You can observe any element. In this case, let's observe the body because that is where the header will be added to later. So that body, okay. And second argument here is what kinds of mutations do we want to observe? So there are a lot, or maybe like several, maybe four things that we can observe. First is like the child list. So we want to, for example, I will just list everything here for now. So child list, specifying child list will let us know when the children of the body gets mutated. For example, when we add a new child to the body, or when we remove a new child, when we remove a child from the body. So that will be handled when we listen for child list mutations. Another one is attributes. So specifying attributes allows us to listen for mutations or changes in the attributes of the body. So for example, if you add a class, like a new class to the body, that would be a mutation on the class and attribute, then it would trigger a mutation change to run our callback. And another one is subtree. So it's kind of similar to child list, except child list only affects like the direct children of the element here, which is the body, but subtree can go deeper than that. It can like detect changes on all the descendant elements. Another one would be like text, or what's it called? Let's just so character data, this would be like if the text within this element changes, then we can listen for that. So for the options, it's required that you pass at least one of these three. Otherwise, it will cause an error. Or let's just see the error. Let's refresh it. So you see mutation observer. When you call observe, you have to specify what kind of mutations you want to be notified of. So it could be attributes or character. Oh, it's not subtree. It's character data. Character data or child list. So for example, in our case, since we want to know that the header is when the header is already added to the page, then we would do like child list. So let's specify that. True. And let's refresh the page. Refresh the page. As you see, it console.log something once the header was already added to the page. Let's refresh it again. So since this is like a random like timeout, it will always log the moment the header was added to the page. So let's take a look at it. What are these? It is this record. So this is an array of records. So it's one record. You can see here the nodes that were added. So here's a text, there's a header, and then text. Also, you might be wondering why is there text. So that's because. So this is the header when we added it, and then these spaces, these are counted as the text nodes that were added to the page also. So just something like specific to this example. But let's just worry about this header. So now we know that the header was added, but this callback function will be called every time some element is added, right? So now we have to filter like, okay, we only add the like button when the header was added. So there's also like a type, what kind of mutation happened. This could be like child list or or like attributes or character data. It depends. So what we will do is when our callback function is called, we check if the header is already added to the page, and when it is, we add our like button. So we basically have to loop through all the mutations because just like with the intersection observer before, you can call observer.observe as many times as you want, depending on if whether you want to observe a lot of elements. And this could be, you could also specify a lot of like options here. So each of those will create a new mutation entry. So you have to like filter out the ones that you need. But since we're only specifying child list, so we don't need to check for that for now. So for each mutation, we need to check if the added nodes has a header. Okay, so for node of mutation that added nodes, and we check if, so this is text, this is header. So just check if it matches the header. So if no, that matches header, then we add like button. So let's refresh our page. And okay, node matches. It doesn't because the text doesn't have a matches function. So let's just filter out the text. So we only do this check when we only do this check for element nodes. That would be like the header element. So the text would be a text node. So we don't want that. So let's refresh again. And as you see, our like button is added successfully. Regardless if it takes 10 seconds for this info or header to appear on the page, the like button will always be added after that happens, after the header is added to the page. So that's nice. So we see here. So what we see here is listening for when elements are added to the page. So again, this would be useful when you're waiting for like a specific element to be available on the page, in our case the header, before doing anything. Just in case like the library, in case you don't have access to the code that adds it, or like the code that adds it doesn't emit events letting you know that it happens, then as a last resort you can use MutationObserver to wait for those elements. So that's one use case. Let's take a look at another option also. So here we're listening for child list. Let's try something else. So let's just delete everything. Actually, I have another example which would add an image to the page. So, yeah, let me just prepare. Let's see. Oh, where's my image? Okay. So here I have another example that dynamically adds an image to the page. So dynamically, that could happen, depending on your app, that could happen like due to like different cases. That would be like a user like lazy loading on a feed, then the image gets displayed dynamically. So yes, there's an image. A problem here is this image is not optimized. Let's say, for example, our app doesn't do like image optimization on the back end. Then we want to do like the image optimizations in the front end because you have no choice. So let's optimize this. This image is like 5.6 megabytes because this will load an image that is, I don't even know how big this image is. That is like 4,000 by 6,000 pixels. But let's say we want to like intercept when this image was added, then we want to load like an optimized version of this image. So again, we create an observer. So new mutation observer. I'll just put the callback functions directly here. Check for each mutation. Mutations. And if we check, so first check if the added element is an image. So if mutation that that target that matches, nope. We need to check all the added nodes as we did earlier. So for each node of mutation.added nodes, we check if the node is an element. So check the node type first so that we ignore the text ones. Is node.element node add node dot matches image. So we make sure that whenever an image is added, we optimize the image. So here we just add like the width and quality, for example. Let's refresh it. So let's see if it works. Okay, it didn't work. Why? Because I didn't observe the body. So observe body, and so child is true. So still the same as before. We're just checking for a different image. I mean a different element, and calling a different function. So let's refresh the page. Oh, why is it work? Okay, because the image is not defined. Why did I pass img? It should be node. So refresh it again. So as you see, the original request gets cancelled because we replaced the image source with optimized one. So we're now loading like a smaller size image. So this will be useful when you don't really have control. Oops, I have some code that changes the image. So when you don't really have control on like when the images are added and what the SRC is, but you can like do some optimization on the client side. So you can do it like this. Let's take a look at the attributes. So we can also know when, let's say for example here, we want to know when the image source changed. So let's add the image directly without any timeout, and let's remove everything. No, not really. Yeah, let's just remove everything. So here I want to know, so when I click on the image source changes to another image. So I want to know when things like that happen. So we can create a new observer and called mutations. I can't spell. Console.log mutations and observer.observe. So now when we want to observe for attributes, we need to observe like the element itself, whose attributes we want, like whose attribute changes we want to know about. So let's get the image first. So selector img, and let's see. So we have the image here, and when I click on it, I should get the mutation record, because after I click on it, the image source changed. So here we see like this mutation type is an attributes like mutation because it was triggered by a change on attribute. Here we see information about like which attribute changed, and yes, can also like if you want to know the old value before the change, you can also pass the attribute old value option. So after this, so here you will be able to get the old value in case you need it. And so let's do it. So what we want to do is every time the image source change, we still want to optimize that image. So let's just set a or mutation of mutations. Let's say if we can do like the checking here if it's an image or not, but since this is like a small example, I know that it's an image, so let's just get to it right away. Optimize image mutation.target. I think this will work. Let's see. Click. Oh no, what happened to my browser? Okay, let me just refresh it. But anyway, you can detect for those kinds of changes. So let's just console that like mutation. So what could be the reason is it's like causing an infinite loop maybe because I also changed the SRC. So that would be it. Go away. Okay, localhost 5000. So let's just stick to console.log. So here we're able to detect the image. You can even, so whatever like the reason why the attribute changed, it would be like through code or through like editing this. For example, let's change it to, I don't remember the previous image. Okay, let's change it to like another image. So even if you like modify it in the DOM, so it will, Mutation Observer is still able to detect these changes in the attributes. And specifically for attributes, if you want to, yeah, as mentioned earlier, if you want to know the old value, you can pass in the attribute old value. Otherwise, if you're only interested, so by default, attributes will like watch the changes for all attributes. But if you know that you only want to know changes for like specific attributes, in our case, like just SRC, you can do like, you can pass in an option called attribute filter, which is like an array of attributes that that we are like interested in. So that should still be the same. So if I add attribute here, let's say data, let's say alt, hello. So this will not trigger mutation because we only specified that we're interested in the SRC attribute. So yeah, that way you can at least reduce like the number of times that our mutations observer is called. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it that I'll be sharing about Mutation Observer for today. It can still do a lot of things like listening for subtree, but I'll leave that to you to explore depending on your use case. So again, like just to like reiterate, like where would this be useful? This is like mostly useful when you want to know when your DOM or like your elements in the page changes and you don't have access to the code like that change them, or they don't like emit events letting you know that the DOM has changed already. So you can we can like resort to using Mutation Observer to listen for those DOM changes. And this is with like modern sites that are using like virtual DOM, maybe this is not very useful. But when you're using like at like third party stuff like that that dynamically like manipulates the DOM and they don't tell you events about it, even though you're using virtual DOM, but then you're using like a date picker library, for example, that doesn't emit like events properly, then to be able to integrate with those, you can use the Mutation Observer API for that. And that's it for me. Thank you.
So, all
Great.
right. I was the one muted at this time. Anyway, so that's it. It's time for the second round of Q&A. Any questions about Mutation Observer API, guys? I was not
Good.
really paying attention. It's good.
Yes.
I'm busy doing the other stuff. Anyway, so that's it. So I think it's pretty much straightforward for me. So the way I understand it, I was kind of listening though. So I guess so. Let's end this session. If that's the case, there's no more questions. So it's time for the outro. Okay, guys. That's it for the session, guys and girls. And if you have some questions or there are some topics that you want us to talk about, just leave a comment in the video. Improvement. If you find today's discussion helpful, don't forget to hit the like button. And for more tech updates and discussions like this, you know the drill. Click subscribe. Bye, guys. Say goodbye, guys.
Bye. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.